Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.
All right, what's going on, everyone? My name is Alex, and welcome to the Beyond Half Court podcast, episode number 12. Quickly, before we actually get started, make sure that you guys are checking out the Linktree link wherever you're watching this. If you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description. If you're watching on or listening on Spreaker, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, it's somewhere in the details of the episode. And if you can't find it for whatever reason, just look up Beyond Half Court on almost any social media, and you'll find me over there. Also, I have another YouTube channel, Beyond Half Court. I've been posting a lot more often. I've also been posting on TikTok a lot, and my TikToks go on my YouTube as well. So if you're interested in any of that content, you should definitely go check that out. And wow, we actually did this intro in under 2 minutes, actually under a minute. So I'm pretty happy about that. We got 3 different things I want to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is a quote that comes from Darvin Ham. We'll get into that first. I also want to talk about the MVP race. I talked a lot about it, a little bit last episode, but I want to go more in depth because I didn't feel like I really did a good job explaining the race so far. And now that more games have been played, I think it's a lot better. It's a lot better conversation that we can have because there's a little bit more sample size. And then I also want to look at the Nuggets, especially their game last night, or at least the last night of today, the day I'm recording this. I'm a Nuggets fan, and I was very disappointed in what I saw. So we'll talk about that as well. But let's talk about Darvin Ham and this quote that came out after a game. I forget what game it was after, but obviously the Lakers lost this game. They're 2-10 currently the day I'm recording this, and this quote from Darvin Ham is very interesting. So I'm gonna share my screen, and we are going to check this out because I want to talk about this. This is a little bit interesting. Here we go.
Big picture and be positive and view things that way. But you've got LeBron is in year 20. AD has missed functionally 2 seasons. How do you keep their patience? I don't know if that's even the right word, but their mindset not in the disappointment and the frustration of 2-8 and kind of along for the build with you.
I mean, you have to put all cards on the table. We can't act like something is happening and that isn't real. You know what I'm saying? And with that, I mean, like from the way our salary is constructed, our salary cap and our budget, all the way to, injuries, guys being available, playing style, new coaching staff, and guys having to buy in to how we're playing and what we're doing. So all of that is real. And guys having to step up and play better. Some of our younger guys, some guys who don't have as much experience in the league that are in our rotation, they have to step up, have that confidence, and play better. And those are just the real facets of our game. We can't go out. We're a tax offender, right? We just can't go out and start spending money everywhere to build a team. We have 3 big-time future Hall of Fame, first ballot future Hall of Famers that a chunk of our budget is being spent on, and there's only so much left. So we have to do our due diligence and go out and again, establish the way we want to play, which I thought we've been doing. We've regressed a little bit defensively. Our offense have come around here of late, and just keep fighting a good fight, pushing forward.
So there's Darvin Ham. So a couple different things. I think a lot of people saw this as a way of the front office using Darvin Ham as a little bit of a puppet to kind of explain what's going on within their franchise. Darvin Ham had said that they are repeat tax offenders. Now, I personally did not do my own research on this, but I did see that is actually not true at all. But again, I don't know if it actually is true or not. I honestly don't really care because I think that, they do make a good point. A lot of their money is spent on their star players and AD, LeBron, and Westbrook, right? So it's hard for them to really do any sort of trades because everyone else on the roster has a very small salary. So you could obviously trade them, but because they're such a small salary, you can't get anything, big in return unless you trade one of your star players. That's why Westbrook is always in these trade conversations, because LeBron and AD aren't going to get traded. So who else is going to be? It's going to be Westbrook, right? So that was something that was really interesting. But it just kind of brings me back to when the Lakers, they very recently, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month at this point, they gave Rob Pelinka an extension. And to me, it just didn't make any sense at all, because I haven't think Rob Pelinka has honestly done a great job at constructing this Lakers roster. Obviously, you can look back at what they did for the 2020 roster, but pretty much everything before that and everything after has been absolutely awful. And that he just, in my opinion, has done a pretty bad job. And I don't think he's very deserving of that extension. And the main reason why I say this, shout out to Lakers Central on Twitter. I want to share my screen one more time, and I'll read it off for you guys just listening. But these are all the moves that Rob Pelinka has done outside of winning the championship. And this puts everything in perspective. So in 2018, the Lakers waived Thomas Bryant, who became a productive starter after the Wizards claimed him off waivers. If a young, talented big who can shoot the ball doesn't fit your plans, why not trade him? And that's a great point here by Lakers Central, right? Like, they've had so many players on their roster. You can even look back at Zubac. Zubac was on the Lakers roster, and they virtually, I forget exactly what happened, but I mean, they didn't get anything in return for him of at least equal value or of relevance. So it to me, it's like, if you have someone who has that sort of skill set, you can trade him for assets. Why don't you just trade him? And this becomes a recurring theme of just letting people go without really getting anything back, because in the same year, they let Julius Randle, his qualifying offer, they let him just walk as an unrestricted free agent, and Randle was the number 7 pick. So even if you thought at the time that Randle was not going towards his expectations of being that number 7 pick, you would at least, in two situations, one, you would want to try to do maybe a sign and trade, or you would at least match an offer and you can trade him later, right? But no, they just let him walk, and they got him for virtually nothing. Now, I'm not saying that, they could trade him for a start player, but like, you're trying to tell me you can't at least trade him for like 1 first-round pick? Obviously, when we look where we are right now, the Lakers would really love to have that first-round pick, but because, again, they let Thomas Bryant just leave and Julius Randle leave, they didn't get anything in return. We go to the next year. They traded Svi and a second-round pick to the Pistons for Reggie Bullock, who left as a free agent after the season. And Lakers Central does point out here that those are very small assets, but again, it was virtually for a rent for not even a full season, and even that trade was made so that the Lakers could make some sort of playoff run, and they didn't even end up making the playoffs anyway. So what was the point of the trade, right? Why are we making these trades to make ourselves better if we still don't even make the playoffs? It's like, how much are we really moving the needle? Like, obviously Reggie Bullock is a better defender than Svi, but Svi offers the spacing, right? So to me, again, that's just another thing of it not making sense. And here we go. We got the Zubac thing. Thankfully, shout out to Lakers Central again. They traded Zubac and Michael Beasley to the Clippers for Mike Muscala, and Mike Muscala just left after that season, and they wasted another pick of Zubac and gave the Clippers a starter who haven't had anyone good at center. So it's just like, what are the Lakers doing at that point, right? And then obviously 2020 happens. They traded Danny Green and a first-round pick to get Dennis Schroeder. So this is after the championship. So this is like the 2020-2021 season. So after they win the championship, they trade Danny Green, and they get Dennis Schroeder, who left as a free agent after the season, and it was a significant step as LA broke apart its championship defense defensive identity and also threw away a first-round pick. So this is an interesting sort of time for the Lakers because they wanted to get more, I guess, help for LeBron. They wanted to relieve him of some of the ball handling duties that honestly won them the championship. So, in my opinion, that just never made any sense. I get wanting to add more depth to the team, but you still needed to keep some of your identity, which was that defense, right? So, if you're trading away a defensive guy for a solid player at the time, or what was saw as a solid player, and a first round pick, and then when you have the opportunity later on to give him an extension or re-sign him, you just let him go. So to me, like, you can trade the first round pick, right? The first round pick, if you really want to trade it, that's fine. But if you're trading that first round pick for one asset and you're not even going to try to retain him to try to like keep things going and make it worthwhile, to me, that's a bad move. Again, Dennis Schroeder just leaves the season after. And if you look now, he's on the team again. So it's like, what was the point in just letting him go? Obviously, Lakers low-key kind of lucked out because Schroeder was asking for a lot of money, which is essentially why they didn't re-sign him. But I believe Schroeder, it got to a point where Schroeder was just he was taking minimum contracts because no one was giving him the money, right? So why couldn't the Lakers just do the same thing? I don't know. That's interesting to me. We'll move on though. In the same year, they also traded JaVale McGee and a second-round pick to the Cavaliers for Alfonso McKinney and Jordan Bell. And Jordan Bell was waived immediately. I was literally just about to say that Jordan Bell would have been the best piece out of that, but they just waived him, and then they made salary cap for them to bring in Marc Gasol, which, in hindsight was like, even in hindsight, that's not like a bad move. Marc Gasol was still very good. But JaVale McGee, in my opinion, was just better. And JaVale McGee just brought more of what the Lakers needed, which was a rim protector and a lob threat. Marc Gasol is a great rim protector, but he's very slow on his feet. And yeah, he could space out the floor, but they honestly, in my opinion, just needed more of a rim roller and more of a tenacious defender. Because I feel like even at that time, JaVale McGee was, maybe a little bit, or at the very least, like equal to like what Marc Gasol could do. So again, just a questionable move in it all as well. And then in 2021, they traded Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and a first-round pick for Russell Westbrook, and we've obviously seen where that's gotten us now. So outside of that 2020 year where they won the championship, what has Rob Pelinka truly done? Please, in the comments, please let me know, because those are all the moves that he's made, right? Ever since LeBron showed up in 2018, and Magic Johnson stepped down, and that's another thing too. I don't even think Rob Pelinka was the guy who got LeBron to get to LA. There's two ways I look at it. One, you can give credit to Magic Johnson, or two, you can just assume that LeBron was coming no matter who was running the team. And I honestly think that's probably the most realistic one. But again, like, sure, Rob Pelinka was there. Did he maybe have a part in it? Sure. But I think you can also believe that even if he wasn't there, it wouldn't matter, right? LeBron was still going to come to LA, and that was just the end of it. So if you want to give credit to Rob Pelinka getting LeBron, I guess that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but this whole thing with the Lakers, and a lot of people believe Darvin Ham in that quote. Just to bring it all back, a lot of people think Darvin Ham was being like used as a puppet to speak for the front office without the front office, speaking on their own behalf. Do I think that? I'm not quite sure. I could definitely understand why people feel that way. But I think at the end of the day, like, whether he's saying it or not, it's the front office who got them in that position. So I hope that Darvin Ham doesn't get put into a scapegoat, and you can blame Westbrook as well. But I think at the end of the day, that's all goes back to the front office, and I personally just think they've made some pretty boo-boo trades and moves that just haven't quite made sense. And the moves have been so bad, and the Lakers are in such a bad shape right now, and even last year, that people are considering, was the AD trade even worth it? And I think that's a crazy conversation to have, and that's not to say that, I personally think the trade was worth it. You got a championship, that was the goal, right? I honestly, I don't know if people expected them to win more than one championship just because of LeBron aging so much. Obviously, he's still super great at his age, but I think people weren't betting on them winning like 3 championship, right? I feel like at most maybe 2. But again, like you made the one championship. I personally think that the trade was worth it, but I think it's just bad that we're having this conversation about was the trade worth it because of all the bad moves they made after that trade. It's pretty much fallen downhill, and that's all I have to kind of say about that. Shout out to Darvin Ham. I really do hope that Darvin Ham doesn't get put into like as a scapegoat again, because he's virtually trying the things that Frank Vogel was doing last season and finding no success again. And I don't think that's his fault. I think it's just because the Lakers are not that talented of a team despite having LeBron and AD. And and that's the front office putting them in that situation. That's not Darvin Ham's fault. He just got hired. He didn't make the team, right? So those are my thoughts on the quote from Darvin Ham. Next up, though, I wanted to talk about the MVP race. And again, I talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth because I felt like I didn't go too deep into it. So I think the front runner so far is definitely Giannis. When you just look at where the Bucks are currently in the stands, the day I'm recording this, they're 10-2. They got the best record. The Utah Jazz are surprisingly 10-3, very similar record to them. Boston is also 9-3, so they're very close to not having the best record, but technically they do have the best record, and they've been able to do this without Chris Middleton. I think we're all aware of that being the situation with the Bucks right now. I'm actually not too sure when Middleton is going to get back, but I will say that the Bucks are definitely missing Middleton. They're about 16th, 17th, middle of the pack on offense. But what's really keeping them in all these games, and really the reason why they've been able to, win all these games so far without Middleton, is their defense. They're currently the best defense in the league. They only give up about, I would say, 5 points. So one of the best defenses in the league, I believe. They're like 1 or 2 in terms of defensive rating. And a lot of this has to do with Giannis. And Giannis is averaging like 31, 32 points, I believe, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He's doing his usual Giannis stuff. So the numbers wise, he's always going to be in that MVP conversation. But when you take into account, Chris Middleton being out and them starting off so well, I think it's kind of unanimous that he's the front runner for MVP. Now, you can obviously make a discussion about Luka. We'll talk about him in a bit. But when you take into account, obviously, his numbers and the wins, and then you also take into account that he is most likely, also leading the Defensive Player of the Year race because the Bucks have one of the best defenses in the league. I think it's just kind of unanimous that he is the MVP front runner. I also want to shout out Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez. Those two have been so good offensively so far to start out the season. Drew Holiday looks like he's turning the corner a little bit, bringing a little bit more consistency. He's averaging like 19 points, 9 assists, or 8 assists. I'm sorry, something along those lines. And Brook Lopez is also looking like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate too, because he's averaging virtually 3 blocks a game. I don't think he's ever been close to that in his career. So that's been a huge help for the Bucks as well to have, that best defense. But again, it all kind of revolves around Giannis's ability to play off the ball and be help side or weak side defender. So I believe Giannis not only is the MVP front runner, but he should definitely be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year as well. And then to get back onto Luka, I think Luka is definitely at that number 2 spot. We know his numbers. He's averaging around the 36 points a game, and that's honestly just kind of insane. I didn't think he would be averaging that many points. I'm sorry, he's actually at 33 points a game now. The day I'm recording this, but still very, very impressive. I believe he's probably leading the league in scoring right now. But even despite how good his scoring has been, the Mavericks are one of the worst offensive teams in the league. They're bottom 10, I believe they're at like 22nd in terms of total points per game as a team. And a big reason for that isn't, Luka's ball hogging. Obviously, Luka has to control a lot of the offense because of the skill set that he has. And also, there just isn't a lot of offensive threats on the team outside of maybe like Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie, right? So a lot of the offensive creation has to come from Luka. But I would say they're really missing Jalen Brunson right now. Now, Dinwiddie has done a really good job in filling in for Brunson. He's now the starter now, but they still need someone to fill in for Dinwiddie's last year's role. They don't really have that guy coming off the bench. I think they kind of thought Christian Wood could be that guy. He's been actually dealing with some injuries. He's missed a couple games due to injury, and he's also been kind of on and off. He started off really hot, but he's kind of cooled down a little bit. He'll have a couple good games, a couple bad games. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe it's just, more of a consistency thing, and it'll get better throughout the season. But currently right now, it's still a little bit not consistent, at least to my liking. But yeah, they still kind of need someone to fill in for Spencer Dinwiddie's. Oh my gosh, for Spencer Dinwiddie's role from last season. And I think there's a big reason why their offense has kind of fallen off. But again, they're still one of the best defenses in the league. They have a lot of defensive players around. They got JaVale McGee as well. They added, defense. And even with Tim Hardaway Jr. Joining as well, their offense is still not very good as well. I actually just remembered that because Tim Hardaway virtually didn't play the entire season last year. I believe, right? How many games did Tim Hardaway miss? You know what? That doesn't matter. Tim Hardaway's still on the team, and they're still, kind of struggling on offense. I think for me, what makes a Luka second place, obviously the stats are there. That's undeniable. But in terms of winning, the Mavericks are only 6-5 right now, so they're barely over 500. And again, it's a small sample size, but you look at Giannis, he's 10-2, and he's missing his second best player on the team, right? So I think just based off that alone, that puts him over Luka. Now you can say the conversation is close because that may be the only thing. I would also say obviously defense, in my opinion, matters for the MVP conversation a little bit as well. Not as much. I think it has more to do with impact on winning. But I think defense does play a part in it a little bit as well. And obviously Giannis is a better defender than Luka. So that's just kind of like my whole thing with Luka being number 2. But you can see it as close. I personally think it's pretty clear it's Giannis. And it's pretty clear that Luka is number 2. Now for the number 3 spot, I think it's a little bit more up into the air. I think there's 3 names that come to mind. I got Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and John Morant. Those are 3 guys that I think could, are in the running for that 3rd place at the MVP table. But I would personally take Tatum. And the Celtics are 9-3 right now. And Tatum has just looked really, really good. Not only is he still able to bring in the offensive ability from last season, he's averaging 31 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, virtually a steal and a block a game, and crazy efficiency as well. He's shooting 50% from the field, 37 from 3 on 9 attempts as well, and he's shooting 87% from the line, which is a career high. Yeah, it's a career high. So shout out to Tatum. And also to add on to him, he looks crazy defensively. I think some people kind of underrated him as a defender, especially last season. I think a good amount of people would believe that Brown was a better defender than Tatum. I personally didn't think that last season, but at this point, I think it's pretty undeniable that Tatum is the best defender on the team, at least until, well, I don't even know. Even if Robert Williams comes back, Tatum's individual defense has been pretty crazy. He's been doing a really good job at like containing his matchup and not having to like rely on maybe like Jaylen Brown or someone else to make up for anything. Like Tatum is like taking on like one of the best players on the other team and still putting up 31 points per game. And again, the Celtics are 9-3. They have one of the best offenses in the league. I believe they're top 5. They're actually number 1. I just checked on ESPN. They're number 1 offense in the league. They score virtually 120 points a game, which is crazy to think about, that the best offense in the league is scoring 120 points per game. But defensively for the Celtics, they have taken a little bit of a step back, and I do think that is because Robert Williams is out. That's why I was kind of considering who is the best defender on the Celtics. I think there's a good conversation to have, because I feel like it would be between Smart, obviously, because he had the Defensive Player of the Year last year. Then you have Tatum. I think you can honestly, at least last season, you could have made an argument for Al Horford because he was doing a lot of switching. And then Robert Williams, and obviously you could talk about Jaylen Brown as well. Just a lot of good defenders on that team, so it'd be a good conversation to see who's the best defender on the Celtics. So let me know down in the comments who you think the best defender is. But going back to Tatum, obviously he's putting out the offensive numbers, and defensively, I think he's made a lot of improvements. I would say his biggest improvement overall is his defense, but also I would say it's his strength. Now, he was super strong last season, but he looks even stronger this season. Something that I talked about a couple weeks ago on my other channel. And, he just looks very comfortable going to the rim now. I think sometimes last season he would get a little bit too comfortable with taking some pretty tough, like, fall away, mid-range shots, trying to do his best Kobe impression that a lot of people give him, a bad rep for. But now he's kind of using more of his strength, more of his shoulders, more of his just upper body strength to get to the rim. And it's honestly worked out really well from him. He's able to just get better looks at the rim, not having to really settle for any, hard fadeaway shots. And he's also used the floater a little bit more as well. I think he's always had a little bit of a floater game, but I think especially this year, being able to push someone off with your shoulder, and then even if there's a center close by, being able to have a floater is always nice to have, especially because Tatum is so tall. Adding a floater game to a guy who's already 6'9", 6'10", it virtually just makes it impossible to guard you, especially around the basket. So Tatum overall has had an incredible season so far. And I mean, you can look at Donovan Mitchell as well. He's putting up the numbers, and he's also improved on defense. But again, Celtics just have more wins. So I think that's why I would have Tatum over. And then John Morant has also had a crazy good season as well. He's putting crazy last time I checked, John Morant was shooting well over 40% from three. I want to check it real quick. It's still pretty well over. He's at 41% right now from three, shooting 5 a game. So to me, that's very impressive. I still don't know how much that's gonna hold up. I would hope that he would at least be a 37-38% 3-point shooter. I think that would be really good for him. But if he's gonna shoot 41% from three, he's virtually unguardable on the offensive end. But in terms of the Grizzlies, the record again isn't just up to par to the other guys. The Grizzlies, I'm wrong about that. I'm sorry, they're 9-4, so they're honestly right in there. Honestly, I might take Ja over Donovan Mitchell, because something to keep in mind as well is Jaren Jackson Jr. is not playing. He's going to be out for quite some time because he did sustain an injury last season, or in last off season. So he had surgery for that, so he's not going to be back, I believe, towards somewhere around the new year. So I think I'll put Ja at 4 and then Donovan Mitchell at 5. But the MVP race, I think those are the guys at the table. I think those are the guys that you could have an argument with any of those guys being top 3. I think Luka and Giannis are pretty set. But Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Ja, I think you can make arguments for all 3 of those guys to be, that number 3 spot. Some guys I think that are on the outside looking in for the MVP race. I think you have to look at Steph. When you look at Steph's stats right now, it is very similar to his unanimous MVP season. And honestly, it might even be better. So I'm getting it up right now. Basketball Reference. He's averaging 33 points a game right now. 7 rebounds as well, by the way, it's 6.8 rebounds. That's a career high. He's also averaging 6.7 assists. And he's shooting 52% from the field, 44% from 3, and 91% from the line. And that would give him a true shooting percentage of, oh my gosh, that gives him a true shooting percentage of 69%. That's a very nice percentage right there, 69.5. So he's virtually at 70%. And when you look back at his unanimous MVP season, he was averaging 66% true shooting percentage. So yeah, and his PR was 31.5 that year. He's at 30.8 as well. So that's very close. That's the best that it's been since. He's kind of been in the lower 20s since his unanimous MVP. But now he's back, at that 30 range. So I think Curry is definitely on the outside looking in. The Warriors haven't won as many games as you would probably hope for him. I think if they were around that 9-3 or 9-4 range in terms of their record, I think they would definitely. I think Steph would definitely maybe be on that number 3 spot. Someone else that I think is on the outside looking in is Nikola Jokic. The reason why I don't think he's going to be seriously considered is because I just feel like his scoring averages just aren't up to par. He's only averaging about 22 points a game. He's virtually averaging a triple double though. He had almost 10 rebounds, 8.5 assists. So his assists are going up compared to the last couple of seasons. Obviously just very slightly, but he's also not had to do as much scoring as he had to, the past 2 seasons. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5 other players scoring double digits, and he has another guy, Bruce Brown, averaging 9.8. So he has a lot of different scoring threats on his team. So he doesn't really have to score as much, which is why he's only averaging, 21, 22 points per game. But I think Jokic should definitely be considered on the outside looking in. But after that, I think that's really all the people who should be considered for MVP. I would say Dame, because the Blazers are 9-3, but Dame has already missed a couple of games, and I'm pretty sure they won all those games that he was out. So I don't know if Dame is in that conversation as well. And then after that, just a lot of people do not have the record. You can look at KD, but the Nets are only 5-7. Pelicans are 6-6. If you're gonna have an MVP candidate, it would be Zion, but even Zion isn't really. He's only averaging like 21, 22 points per game, so that's nothing too crazy. And then Embiid was my prediction for MVP. He's looked solid, but the Sixers are only 5-7, and now Harden is out with an injury for about a month. So not sure how the record is gonna look once James Harden comes back. But yeah, I think Steph Curry and Jokic are looking in, but in terms of top 5, going from 1 to 5, I would have Giannis, Luka, Tatum, Ja, and Donovan Mitchell. And I think that's the MVP race so far. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know if I'm missing someone out. Someone else needs to belong at the MVP table. We'll probably have this conversation, later on, especially once we get towards the All-Star break. I think we'll have more of an idea of who's going to be the MVP. Just things just look really weird right now, especially with, the Utah Jazz having a really good record. It's like, is Lauri Markkanen at the table? I don't think so, but those are my thoughts on the MVP race. That's my thoughts on the MVP race right now. And for our last topic that I wanted to talk about the Denver Nuggets. So the Denver Nuggets are my team to watch. They're my favorite team. They're my team that I watch. I'm a fan of the Nuggets. Jokic is definitely one of my favorite players in the league. It's him or Giannis. I love both of those guys, but from what I saw from them against the Celtics, it was honestly pathetic. I did not like what I saw. Now it was, somewhat of a close game towards the end. KCP he came in that third quarter and really hit some big shots to keep him in that game, make it single digits, because they were mostly down double digits, like 90% of that game, and KCP kind of brought him back in. Jokic played great as well. He almost had 30 points a game, or 30 points. He almost had 30 points in that game. And after that, my concerns just kind of come from the help that was around Jokic. So 2 players that annoyed me in that game. First one was Aaron Gordon. So Aaron Gordon statistically had a good game. He had 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. He also had 3 offensive rebounds, which were huge. But Aaron Gordon gets into a habit of wanting to self-create. And I can understand that because he does show really good signs of being able to self-create, especially when he has a mismatch. He is a very strong guy. And obviously he's athletic. So as soon as he gets under the basket with a smaller guy, like he's able to just yam on him. So I definitely like that. But there's definitely times in the fourth quarter where Aaron Gordon was trying to, self-create and get a bucket, and it was ugly. And the reason why I have a problem with it is, like, obviously he does show the signs, but when he's doing it in crucial moments, that's what annoys me, especially when, like, the ball doesn't even touch Jokic. Like, Jokic doesn't even get the ball, Murray doesn't even touch the ball. It's just Gordon, like Jokic would grab the rebound, pass it to Gordon. Gordon will bring it up, and then just stays in Gordon's hands the entire play. And then, if he ends up passing out, like, he's not that great of a passer, so it just ends up leaving the offense scrambling to try to figure something out. So in that fourth quarter, before things kind of like got blew out of the water, there was one specific play. Aaron Gordon actually had like a nice move on the baseline. He likes to go baseline, and he was able to get a nice basket off the baseline. But then he had the same one, but he's like posting up, and I believe he was doing it on Tatum as well. And it's like, why are we doing this on Tatum? This doesn't seem to be the guy you want to actually start self-creating on. Maybe you should, pass the ball out. But no, he pretty much ran out the entire shot clock, and then the Nuggets scrambled to try to figure something out. And obviously they didn't. So that annoyed me. Also, DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan also annoyed me. He was only out there for 9 minutes, but he looked awful. There's one specific play, I'm sure everyone saw it on Twitter, where Payne Pritchard pretty much out-rebounded the entire Nuggets team. And to me, it was when Pritchard grabbed the ball and was able to actually score it off the offensive rebound. It's like DeAndre Jordan had the ball, but he didn't seem to be in any sort of rush to like actually secure the ball, because at that point the Celtics had like 3 offensive rebounds. So once DeAndre Jordan had the ball, there was like no urgency, which just makes no sense to me, because you need to grab that ball. There was too many offensive rebounds happening, but he doesn't grab the ball. So Payne Pritchard just takes it, and there's like not even a contest at all. And Aaron Gordon was there too. It was 2 guys on one, and the one short guy who's like 6 foot got it over a 6'8", 6'9" guy and a 7-footer. To me, that just is unacceptable. So after that point, they were running Aaron Gordon at the center, and they definitely saw more success with that because they were able to run Bruce Brown and KCP at the same time to do that. Another player that honestly didn't have a good game as well was Michael Porter Jr. He was a negative 24 for box plus minus in that game. Shot 3 for 10 from the field, had 7 points, 1 for 6 from 3. And obviously defense is not his calling card, so wasn't a great defender as well. And that's the one thing. I am happy that we have Bruce Brown and KCP, because if Michael Porter Jr. just isn't hitting, it's nice to have those 2 guys, but that does undersize our lineup. Bruce Brown, KCP, they're only, like 6'4", 6'5", respectively. So not that big of a lineup. And obviously you have Jokic and Gordon in the front court, but when you have to guard some bigger forwards, it'll definitely be a problem. Bruce Brown and KCP are great defenders though. But I would definitely like to see some more size. So definitely disappoints me that MPJ is not out there, because he is 6'10". But he's just not a good defender. And when he's not hitting on the offensive end, when he's not hitting his shots, when he's not hitting 3-pointers, he's almost useless. He is a good rebounder. But again, like, if you're not scoring and you're not defending, you can just get rebounded from someone else. Like Bruce Brown in this game, he had 10 rebounds. He had 5 offensive rebounds. And like I said before, he's only 6'4". So, he's able to play defense. He was knocking down some shots yesterday as well. He ended that game really well. He had 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals as well off the bench. So when Michael Porter Jr. isn't playing good, I do like having Bruce Brown, coming in at the small forward. But it is disappointing to see Michael Porter Jr. just not playing all too well, because we did pay him all that money. And it kind of sucks when you can't play a guy who is owed a lot of money. It's not ideal. You would rather spend that money on someone else who can actually play in games. But, again, it's early in the season, but I even saying that though, like, to me, it's just like a cop out, because Michael Porter Jr. has not been able to play defense his entire career. And sure, he's still young, but I'm not sure if he'll ever get to the point where he's an average defender. And if he does, like, I still think it's going to take a couple years. I think he's far back on his defensive skills. He virtually has to be on Like he's got to be on go when he's on offense, because if he's not, then he's not going to be on the court. Celtics played a really good game though. Tatum, he ended up the game with 34 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Jaylen Brown had almost a perfect game. He was, I think he went 11 for 11 and then missed his like next 4 shots, but he went 11 for 15 from the field with 25. Al Horford also had a huge game. He went 6 for 8 from 3. And that's just like another annoying thing as well. Like Jokic plays in the drop. So Horford is just able to get these really easy threes. Grant Williams had 13, Derek White had 10, and Peyton Pritchard had 11. And Peyton Pritchard had 4 offensive rebounds as a 6'1" guard off the bench. So rebounding was a huge problem in that game for the Nuggets. MPJ, his lack of actually being able to score the ball left him off the court, so the Nuggets definitely missed him, but we're still able to get some pretty good playing time out of Bruce Brown. And Aaron Gordon, I think at times can just be a little bit of a ball stopper. Still really like him. Think he's definitely a good fit for the team. It's just times like the Celtics game where I wish we still had Jeremy Grant, even though we underutilized him when we had him. Just where he is now on the Blazers, I think that's a perfect spot to have him as like that number 3, possibly number 4 option. He will definitely be a number 3 if MPJ is going to be missing shots like he did yesterday, but I definitely miss Jeremy Grant. But Aaron Gordon is still a very fine power forward for us. Bones Highland, it should also be said that Bones Highland did not play in this game. He was in health and safety protocols. He was a late scratch, so we definitely missed some scoring there. But even if he was on the court, I don't know if we would have won that game. There's just too many things that went wrong for us. Rebounding was the biggest one, but there's just some like irritating things with the players that I wish weren't the case. But kind of like my main thought from this as well, the Nuggets, like, they just didn't seem they're 8-4. Celtics are 9-3, but and I personally think the Nuggets could get to the conference finals. Obviously as time goes on, they'll just get better, and Jamal Murray will be healthier. Same thing as MPJ as well. But you're facing a championship caliber team, and you didn't really compete. So that honestly scares me a little bit. I personally think the Nuggets will make the finals? No, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're there yet. But it does scare me that we're not even able to compete against, someone like the Celtics. Because if I've said this many times, like if the Nuggets play the Warriors, like we don't have a shot. Like the Warriors just match up really well against the Nuggets. So they'll be able to kind of outplay us that way. But if we play anyone else, I think we'd be okay. But if we're not even gonna compete against the Celtics, like I'm scared if we play a healthy Clippers team, or even the Suns to a certain degree, right? Like depending on how Chris Paul looks by the time we get to the postseason, like that would be a pretty scary matchup as well. I don't know. Overall, a scary game. It kind of just it just showed me that there's still, stuff to work on for the Nuggets. But I still think the Nuggets are going to be a really good team by the end of the season. But with that out of the way, that's all I really had to talk about. I haven't really watched a lot of games, been working a lot, working on YouTube stuff, working at my actual job that I have. So wasn't able to watch a lot of games, but hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast episode. Something that I am trying out on my YouTube is I'm cutting up these sections into smaller videos. So if you're not able to watch the full thing, you can always just watch the smaller clips. I also put chapters as well. So I'm assuming, people are skipping around on the chapters to see what I say. But, if you want to just watch an individual video or an individual part, again, you can always go to my YouTube channel, Beyond Half Court Podcast. And I will be, posting shorter clips of this full podcast episode on that channel. They come out every other day, so Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, because we talked about the 3 topics today. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys leave a good review, sub if you're on YouTube, that sort of stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, man. Stay safe.